Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Thursday, July 24th, 2025, and I'm here with the awesome Sean Riley. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Miriam. How are you?
I am really happy to have you on the show. We keep running into each other lately, which is nice because I don't see you that often in person. I want to start with a little thing there. There's not a lot to talk about this week in terms of like big product announcements. There's a few little things like nothing has a new watch, that kind of stuff. We'll dive into that. But there is, some rumors, some leaks, some stuff that seems interesting. In case you're wondering where the hell I am, folks, so those of you watching on Patreon, the video version, I'm in a hotel room in Frankfurt, Germany right now. And that's because I came to Germany for some car stuff. And so, I'm trying a new ring light. So let me know if you think the video looks okay and stuff. So Sean wrote a really cool article about something that everybody wants to know. If you're not a nerd, I mean, most of you are, but if you're not a nerd, you probably get this question asked by the non-nerds in your life. Should I buy a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro? And so, Sean, what's your takeaway? I think 99% of the people out there, including some of us who even do video editing, some of the people we know that already have a MacBook Pro, should be perfectly served with an Air.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's kind of where I fall on it. MacBook Air versus MacBook Pro is one of those, always asked questions, on Google and everywhere. So, the last, when Apple moved to 16 gigabytes of RAM as the baseline for the MacBook Air, they really kind of changed the equation to me because that just became such a great value point, particularly then as we moved to the Air M4 this year and they dropped the price back to $999. That's just an incredible value. And
you're just a Mac fan. Get out of here. I'm just kidding.
It's a tough, that is a very competitive market. That kind of it used to be sub 1,000, that kind of, went away sadly, but now it's mostly kind of sub 1,500 is where you look at. And Apple, was, forever not a value basically in that range because you had to upgrade to kind of get to the specs that you were looking at from Lenovo, from Acer, from Samsung. And that's just not really the case anymore. If you do need to upgrade storage and things like that, Apple will still get you. So you still have to kind of watch that. But if you can get by with the base storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM is good for most people. Not everyone, but it is good for most people still. So I think that's just a phenomenal value. So for most people, I would say the answer is MacBook Air.
So who needs a Pro? Like realistically, again, I've mentioned this on the show before. My roommate has a Pro and they absolutely don't need a Pro. And I'm always like, they're students. So of course they bought, probably got like a bit of money to buy. And they went like, well, I want to future-proof things. But I mean, like seriously, they're not doing any kind of engineering work, even like high-end creative work, like video editing, or audio, like where you have to like a million plugins in your tool chain or whatever. It's like overkill. I think you have to be like some serious power user to really need a Pro, I think.
Yeah, if it's when you start to get to you're charging by the minute for things, and that's changing the
like
value
rendering video
for you.
And stuff like that, right?
Right. Where those extra minutes that you're shaving off from versus a MacBook Air doing it really matter to you or to a client. That's when I think you really do need a MacBook Pro. Now, there are still great deals on a MacBook Pro, and particularly the M4 MacBook Pro. It's a great laptop and a great value as well. So I wouldn't talk people out of going for that option if they like it. But particularly when you get into the M4 Pro, M4 Max, you should be making money with whatever it is you're doing with that laptop to justify spending that extra money.
I feel like, honestly, the one thing that the Pro could be an option for some people, like I could see them saying, no, I need the Pro and I want the Pro. And there's a valid reason, is the 120 hertz refresh rate on the display. It's also a brighter, higher quality display. So I think like maybe a photographer does not necessarily need the oomph of an M4 Pro or Max, whatever chip. They can go for the base M4 MacBook Pro, but they'll want the best display, right? The best color rendition. I mean, the MacBook Air has a really good display in terms of color, but it's not the brightest. And of course, it's 60 hertz. So, if you're like me, you probably won't care and notice. I do notice it more on phones, probably because I scroll more, like you get that finger synchronization thing going on. But I think that I can live with 60 hertz, but I can understand how somebody would tell me, no, I'm getting the Pro because of one promotion on 120 hertz. And that I think is totally valid. The other thing that's valid is if you know you're going to spin up the GPU or CPU at some point, like you're doing some AI work or something with the NPUs locally, like you probably want the fan because eventually the Air will throttle. And it's happened to me, but it's very rare because I'm on an Air right now. I'm on an M2 Air actually. And that thing is unbreakable. And I swear to God, I'm going to be on an M2 Air for another 5 years, like I was on the other Macs I've had. That's the other thing, right? Like if you're buying a Mac today, buy the best Mac you can afford simply because they just never end. Like they are so reliable and rugged and last so long. They get so many software updates. You'll be stuck with that sucker forever. So,
yeah. Well, and
unless
right.
you break it or something,
Right, unless you break it. And if you do decide to move on, resale tends to be good as well. So it's not, but yeah, I absolutely agree. The display, right, that is the sort of, that's a remaining weakness of the Air or the, thing that allows Apple to still have a price discrepancy between them, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, that's another good reason to consider.
What is your history with Mac? Since you wrote this article, I'm assuming you've not tested them for just this article and reviewed them for a laptop, but you've probably used one for a while at some point as your main device.
Yes, I have a somewhat checkered history with my Macs. So I was one of the ones who I used a Mac for probably 10 years until 2018, 2019. I was one of the people who had multiple failures with the butterfly switch.
The
Macs.
keyboard of doom. Yeah.
So I had ultimately 3 or 4 MacBook Pros replaced as part of that, where the top case would go and you'd have to replace the entire system. And I just got so frustrated with it that I flipped to Lenovo for the next 4 years about. And then, so I had been a Windows only there for about 4 years. And then with starting the Air M2, I think like 18 months ago or something, I switched to that. And then just to get my hand back in because we didn't have really Mac people at Laptop Mag for the most part. Yeah, that's when I got back into it now. So now I've been deeply kind of into the Mac again, and I've been using and reviewing all of them.
Did you jump into it, at least from a testing perspective, from like, oh my God, I'm curious of what's going on when the M1 came out? Because for me, like, I mean, I'll tell you my history in a second. The M1 was like the hallelujah moment. It didn't sway the fact that I had already been on Mac and I'd stayed on Mac, but it was like I needed some change, and that was the change I needed that I didn't know I needed, but I kind of knew I needed, if you know what I'm saying. Like I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, but I knew that I needed ARM and wanted ARM on a Mac. So the M1 just kind of like completely solidified my 20 years of Mac before that, basically. Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever actually used an M1, one of the M1 Macs. So I got to see them, of course, come through, but I wasn't the one reviewing them at that point. That was Cherie. And then, but yeah, I got to, of course, see it come through our labs, and I saw the test results, and it was, battery life just skyrocketed. Everything, kind of jumped for it. So, I mean, you could tell it was going to be a major shift. The only real question was kind of software compatibility, and Apple, acquitted itself well there.
Yeah, for sure. So I had some Mac access in college, and I'm old, so this is in the 90s. And of course, this is 68K Max. This is, Mac OS 7 and 8 and 6 and that generation. And that was, they were outrageously expensive. I was a student. There was no way I was going to buy one. So my early days of computing were on Windows. I think my first computer was a 386SX with a coprocessor, 16 megahertz or something like that, running Windows 3.1. Probably. I don't think I went. I used DOS before that on other people's computers, but I think when I started, I think I waited for Windows for Workgroups 3.11 to be a thing because it supported the networking stack. So I could, if I was kind of future-proofing myself in case I get two computers in the house, I can connect them via some kind of networking gear because I had NetBIOS and all that stuff. And then, of course, eventually Windows 95. I can't remember exactly, but my first Mac I bought when I finally got a job in San Francisco in the video game industry in 2004. I bought a PowerBook 12-inch G4 because I was obsessed with very small computers, and I finally had the budget. And I kind of grew up around Unix a lot. Like I was a developer early on, and I was very cross-platform. So when I was in college, I had access to a whole bunch of like high-end Unix systems from Silicon Graphics and from Sun Microsystems and from HP and DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, from IBM. Remember the RS-6000 RISC computers they made in the 90s? So I had access to all this in college for free, which is why it took me so long to get a PC at home because, I didn't really need it. And so I had access to Macs in college as well on top of that. And so then I had this Windows machine at home and then all this Unix stuff and Mac stuff. And so when I finally had enough money to buy a very small, very light laptop, I wanted the hardware to be brilliant and I wanted it to be Unix essentially, but not Linux because I'd used Linux, but Linux was really not optimized for laptops, certainly not in 2004. I wanted Wi-Fi, I wanted all that stuff. So I was on a couple of Windows laptops before that, like, cheap. Do you remember a brand called Avratech?
I don't remember that.
Early 2000. It was sold at Best Buy. I think it's like some kind of Taiwanese no-name brand, They made this super light, super thin Pentium M or something. It had built-in Wi-Fi, and it was only like, I don't know, $1,200 or something, which at the time was pretty cheap for a ultra light, ultra thin Pentium M laptop with Wi-Fi built in. That was the last laptop I had with Windows before I went to the PowerBook G4 12-inch. And I think there were 3 generations of that 12-inch over the span of its lifespan. I think it was the middle one. I want to say like 1 or 1.2 gigahertz. Can't remember the storage and stuff, but it was great. I loved it. But I was like, I really wanted kind of something smaller. And so I kept that thing until the MacBook Air. Oh, the original. When he pulled that thing out of the envelope, I was like, I don't care how much it costs. And again, at the time I worked in video games, I could afford it. So I was like, I don't care how much it costs. I bought it. Like I pre-ordered that sucker like the moment. This was 2008, right? And at the time is my early blogging career when I had my own blog, tnkgrl.com, which still exists out there. You can see it. And before I worked at Engadget, so I was basically a hobbyist tech journalist at the time. And I was like, I want to, I'm going to write about my experience with this thing. And so I bought the entry level because, the other one with an SSD was ridiculously expensive. So that one, mine had the tiny little iPod hard drive, 4,200 RPM or something. It was underpowered. It was slow. It was Intel, so it was still faster than my 12-inch PowerBook. I'm trying to remember. Did I buy? I think I'm wrong. I bought the first Intel MacBook, the white plastic one.
That I did have. I had
because remember when they did the transition in 2005, I was like, oh, Intel, I want the best, newest chip. So it was a Core Duo, not Core 2 Duo. And I bought that, I think, to replace my 12-inch. but it was too big and heavy and bulky comparison. So I kind of lived with it for 3 years, kind of regrettably, and then got the Air, and the Air wasn't that much faster, but it was so thin and light and awesome. And for what I was doing, it was great. And so then I stayed with that until the first generation 11-inch Air came out.
All right. Yeah.
And I got that. And then I was on Airs for forever. I was on Airs. I never went to the 13. It was always 11. I did like 2 or 3 generation of 11s as they kept upgrading the chips and the performance on them. And then I did something crazy. You know what's coming. Come on. Think of the thinnest, lightest Apple Mac that's ever been made. The MacBook Non-Air.
MacBook, right.
The Retina 12-inch MacBook. I did exactly the same as MacBook Air for that one, like the original. I just went, buy now. And I love that thing. I still have it. It still works. It's running whatever the latest version of the OS it can run. It's dog slow, but it was dog slow from the get-go. And so guess what? I changed my workflow to accommodate that. And get this whole time you've known me, Sean, when you saw me at an event in that time frame from whenever that Mac was announced, because it was the first USB-C device on the market, from that moment till my M1 MacBook Air, my travel machine was a 12-inch, first gen 12-inch Retina MacBook, and I suffered through a single USB port and did everything, including video editing on it. That's me. That's how I learned to work with only 5 tabs open at all times in a web browser. Only 5.
My workflow could never survive such a thing. I don't.
And so the M2 Air I have right now came about because I was asked to review this, and then I was like, hey, do you guys want this? Like, they're like, no, you can keep it. So I was like, okay, I will keep it. And then I gave my M1 Air to my spouse because they were on an Intel Air from just the year before the M1 Air. And they were struggling because the last Intel Airs were, compared to the M1, even though it's the same chassis and the butterfly keys are gone and everything is great, they were dog slow compared to an M1 Air. So they were very happy to get an upgrade. And I had the M2 Air, which I still have. And right now, I don't plan on upgrading that thing, honestly, until they make something smaller and thinner, or until it breaks, or whatever. So speaking of RAM and storage, I've been perfectly okay with 8 gigs of RAM on all my M devices. Possibly because I'm very economical with my tabs. I mean, now I open more than 5, but I'm used to, spending 5 years or so with a MacBook 12-inch Retina with a Pentium M in there, or whatever that chip was, some kind of super low power Pentium without a fan. So I'm happy with 8 gigs, especially on the Apple Silicon chips, but it's the storage for me. So I always try to get to 512 gigs at least. And I spend the money on that. Now I don't have to worry about the RAM because it's 16 base, as you said. And then more importantly, this M2 Air, because I was reviewing it and we bought it as a review unit, was 256 gigs of storage. So I've been having to, instead of juggling tabs, I have to be juggling storage on this one. I have an external 4 terabyte SSD that I can offload stuff to if I need to. But I've managed to make it work. I kind of got rid of a whole bunch of, over the years, I've just kept upgrading my Macs by doing the transfer. So I have I literally have some PowerPC apps still sitting in my apps folder. I guarantee you, So I did a bit cleanup and I got rid of stuff and, also looked for big files and offloaded big video projects and stuff to SSD, and it's fine. I have right now, I'll tell you what I have. The audience will want to know, 57 gigs free on this MacBook. So I can work
with 256. Yeah, that's another one that we, sort of a perennial question about all laptops that we would get. And I have pretty hardly stuck to 256 is enough for most people. I mean, a lot of people can get by with 128, but I don't disagree. That's sort of, at this point, there's no reason why you should be subjected to starting with 128.
I think for me, what happened was when I got my 11-inch Air, the first one, I think or like one of those 11-inch Airs, I went to 512. I spent the extra money. And ever since then, I wanted to stay at 512 minimum because I kind of grew into that space. But when I got this M2, I was like, wait, can I actually do 256? And I can. I found a way to kind of downgrade it a little bit, but mostly it's by cleaning shit up and, making my life just a little bit more streamlined. It wasn't like a killer thing where I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I do have more storage on my desktop Macs. Like I have two residences. So I have an M3 iMac, 8 gigs of RAM, but 512 gigs of storage in Vancouver. And I have an M4 Mac Mini that came with 16 gigs. And I have an external M.2 SSD enclosure, whatever the latest Thunderbolt. It's one of the Otherworld computing ones, the enclosure.
Thunderbolt
so
5.
It's like it's Thunderbolt 5. It's bulletproof. Yeah. And I got a Samsung SSD in there, 1 terabyte, and I'm using the 256 built-in as basically my recovery drive. That's it. I've got nothing on it. And then I've got both of these desktops have a spinny disk connected to them, like a small 2.5-inch external hard drive for Time Machine and a big 4 terabyte SSD for video projects and stuff. So I kind of replicate by most of the data on both of them. The MacBook Air becomes kind of like the transfer drive, and I don't use any of the iCloud stuff because I don't want to pay for it. But that's kind of my and I've always had a desktop Mac since I got a Mac Mini when the first Mac Mini came out, and then like the G4 Mac Mini, and then I went to an Intel Mac Mini. And I went to the new form factor, the thinner Intel Mac Mini. And then I went to I had a 27 iMac Core i5 for a long time in San Francisco. And that M3 iMac, though, I'm so mad at Apple for that thing because I bought it last summer. I bought it last July, a year ago. And guess what happened, Sean?
Right before they
M4 iMac came out,
exactly.
in October?
Yeah.
And with 16 gigs of RAM? I was so mad.
Yeah, that is tough. I have not had a Mac. I don't think I've actually ever owned a Mac Mini. So yeah, the new ones are extremely tempting.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, and get this. I got it on during the Amazon Black Friday sale. So I got it for like $100 off or something. And I got a Samsung, the 27-inch 5K display.
Okay. Yeah.
That's designed for Mac for half price on Black Friday. So for way less than my M3 iMac. Oh, and even if you count the SSD and the enclosure was like $200, and then the SSD itself was like 100 or something for 1 terabyte. Even if you add that to that and add a Apple keyboard.
Oh, the Touch ID keyboard.
Yeah, the Touch ID keyboard. Even all that was still less than my M3 iMac, and I was so mad. That's actually why I bought the Mac Mini, because I was like, you bastards, you made me buy another computer. But I'm like, oh wait, I have 2 residences. Instead of using my laptop in Vancouver all the time, why don't I just set up a nice little workstation with that M3? So that's what I did. That's my story. That's my history with Macs.
Yeah, I start slightly later. That PowerBook, returning to the beginning of your story, that PowerBook was also just beautiful compared to most of the hardware that was out at that point. It just looked so sleek. So I did not get to set. I started with the unibody plastic, white plastic, which cracked. That was not up to Apple's
mine
current
cracked
durability.
too. Yeah, 100%.
Standards. So then I briefly had the black version of that. But which just looked great. That was the one where I think it was $150 premium just because it was black. Basically, it was.
I remember that.
Fun.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, then around the same time. See, I was always a sort of screwy laptop person too. So I had like the HP TC 1100 folding.
Oh my god, that thing is awesome.
Yes,
the tablet
I
one. Right. That's a great one.
Yeah, convertible, like an early detachable convertible tablet, and it was a wild laptop. They used it in one of the Aliens movies, and it was like they used it as like a far future because it's supposed to be taking place distantly in the future, and they used it as like a far future computer in this Alien movie. And it was like, no, this is actually a piece of hardware you can buy right now, and it was kind of amazing.
So did they? I remember, if I properly, they made a 1000 model that had a Crusoe chip in it. Remember that?
Yes.
The super like that. Also, that was in the OQO computer. Do you remember the OQO computer?
I don't remember that
tiny little handheld thing that was a slide up little membrane keyboard thing. I bought that. I had that. I still have it as a collectible now. It is incredibly cool. Even today, it's like titanium or something. Yeah, it's super cool. So I highly recommend you check it out. Maybe I'll bring it to an event and show it to everyone. It still runs Windows XP just fine. So it's just the battery lasts about 10 seconds because but it hasn't like done the spicy pillow thing yet somehow. You know, the other computer I have that I didn't buy, but I inherited somehow from some garage sale or something. Remember that HP? No, not HP, because it's before it was HP, when Voodoo was still a separate company. And they did that 13-inch carbon fiber laptop that was MacBook Air thin.
Yeah.
I have that. It still works. It still has the original Windows 7 on it. It is so cool. It is so cool. I have quite the museum going. It's all in boxes, unfortunately, so I should probably check to see if it's alive or whatever. Anyway, it's kind of funny. What Lenovo's did you have in that interim period then?
So let's see. I had the X1 Carbon.
Of course.
I had an X1. I had the only X1 Titanium, which was a one-off, as it turned out. I don't think it was intended to be a one-off, but that was how it worked out. I don't think Titanium was easy to work with for the purposes of the laptop. And then I had, let's see. It was all X1s. Okay,
so you just went hardcore X1 Carbon the whole way.
Yeah, because I still had I had a desktop PC at that point that I used for like video or photo work. So just one that I built. So that was what I stuck with if I really needed something
cool.
more intense. But the X1 did a great job in terms of just photo editing. It's just when I wanted to jump into video editing that became a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I feel like right now with any MacBook Air, at least you're good. If you're just doing a relatively simple 4K video editing, you're probably really good. Render times are still okay, unless you're rendering a 3-hour video and then, throttling starts to get you a little bit at the end. Depends what you render to as well. If you do anything H.264, it's hardware, so it doesn't really throttle.
Yeah, I mean, most people doing like online content creation where it's, going to be 8 minutes or less, most likely. Yeah, you're definitely covered with the Air, any of the current Airs. But
totally. Yeah. So anyway, I didn't think we were going to get into a history of our laptops. That's pretty freaking cool. I love it. Yeah. Freaking great. Such good stories. Yeah. So the OQO thing is really cool. I bought that because I was obsessed with miniaturization. It's like, imagine something about this size, like literally, I'd say like if you took a smartphone of today, you cut 1/3 off, reduce it down to 2/3 size, like, the original Google Pixel Fold, about that size, but thicker, like about a good inch thick. And imagine you could slide the display up and then it reveals this keyboard with a little track point device, like on a ThinkPad. And it had one of those Crusoe processors, like the 1000 version of your 1100 tablet you had. And that was an Intel, right? The 1100? It was a much better chip, right?
Yeah, it was that was why I waited and got the 1100, because the 1000 was really...
that Crusoe processor was horrible, but it needed that in that size. And that thing was amazing for what it could do. It could literally run Windows XP on tiny little thing like that. Is really cool. I have a photo somewhere of me using that with a Bluetooth mouse and in my Sony Ericsson T68i phone on T-Mobile using GPRS, the data like slow pre-edge, before edge, IP data on T-Mobile. That's circa 2004 or something like that.
This is
that desktop setup. Travel desktop setup. Kind of like Michael Fisher does, when he like does this little foldy phone setup with a mouse and a stand and a portable keyboard.
Yeah, I have memory. The other one that was in that same vein that I was obsessed with but never could splurge on at the time was the HTC Advantage.
Yeah,
that was similar-ish concept anyway, where it was I blame it was the podcast with Matt Miller and Kevin Toffel.
Oh my God, good times. I remember that.
Yeah, so that was what got me absolutely obsessed with sort of small, tiny tiny laptop setups. Anyway,
I also bought a Vio P. Do you remember the Vio P?
Yes. Yep.
This big laptop with a track point. That thing was pretty dope too, but also dog slow. I bought a lot of bad computers in terms of like productivity, but I had a video game job and it paid well, so whatever. And then eventually once I became a tech journalist, I could get stuff but somehow I don't know how I got that Voodoo 13. I honestly, I never paid for it. And I think it was like, I think it was a friend of a friend, like that said, I found this at a garage sale. I bought it for $10. I thought of you because I remember you talking about a carbon fiber laptop. Is that the one? I'm like, you're kidding me. You found one in the box with all the accessories and a battery that works? Are you nuts? And I was like 10 years after they were sold, right? I was like, I want. They're like, yeah, you can have it. Here you go. So that was cool. But yeah, other than that, I never really bought too many Windows laptops except in the early, before the PowerBook G4. And then since then, I've mostly been using Macs, but I always have a bunch of older laptops running Linux around in case I need Linux. And like we're talking like ThinkPads that I found in like a trash can, and I put a CF card adapter in there and it's like running some old distro of Linux and it's like some kind of Pentium 3 mobile or something from like 2003 or something. I got a bunch of, one time I found a whole dumpster of computers and I just like made them run Linux and kept them somewhere. And then I have, of course, review units now. Now, my biggest fascination right now is, in terms of laptops, is the ARM-based PCs, like Windows on ARM. So obviously, my current favorite is the ZenBook A14?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, the super thin, super light. It's not the fastest again. I don't know. I have this thing about making my computers slower by picking the worst possible chips of all the chips available, like with my 12-inch Retina MacBook. And
that's the X Plus. Snapdragon X Plus.
Yeah, it's the Plus, exactly. Okay. So it's not like, of course I had to go for the lower powered thing to be me, right? Because I need to somehow restrict my performance in some way or another, because I need to only run 5 tabs at all times. I also have the ZenBook, the S, I think, the higher end one. That's the Intel Lunar Lake one.
Oh, yep.
And then I have, trying to remember, these are the most recent devices I got. I think they're both Asus.
Asus has been making some absolutely unbelievable laptops lately. They've been on a real roll.
I also have the Lenovo, the first Lenovo with Snapdragon X. The blue one they made? It's like a 14-incher, ultra thin, ultra light, Snapdragon X, not Plus. It's the
Elite, the X Elite, but
Elite. It's the Elite, yeah. And that one's really great. The only thing I don't like about Lenovo laptops is that the backlight is always like, there's always like that bleeding around the keys, and the dim levels are not enough, and it's like blinding you. Like, why is it that Apple's the only one who can make a keyboard with a backlight that looks decent? I don't understand this. Like, and then I do have the new Lenovo 14-inch Chromebook Plus. I just got that to play with.
Oh, okay.
As a review unit. That thing, that with a Compagno chip from MediaTek, I love it. I love Chromebooks to start with. By the way, I kept my original Pixel book.
Oh, yeah.
And I have my Pixelbook Go as well, the slightly cheaper, non 2-in-1 ish or yoga ish one. But that Chromebook, I hadn't played with a Chromebook in a few years, and that 14-inch Lenovo, again, the backlight on the keys, God, but also on that Snapdragon X Elite yoga book or whatever it is, the camera is potato. Like you think after COVID and after Apple using a proper ISP for their webcams, even though their webcams in terms of hardware are not that good, like you'd think that the PC world would have caught up, but it's all over the map still. Like some PCs are really decent. Like I think my Asus PCs are pretty decent webcams, but like the Lenovo ones, oof, it's rough.
No, yeah, it's still just not. Yeah, Microsoft does reasonably well there. I feel like actually, the Surface line, and then I do feel like Apple really kind of transcended with the center stage. This last update, I think they really took a significant leap to where they're as good as a lot of the. Because I still would recommend, even though I'd say it's good enough, it really, got to the point now where it's kind of, it's on par with until you start spending, $150, $199 on an external webcam, you're getting the same kind of experience.
I agree. And I think the ISP and the image processing really, really helps. I mean, like right now I'm not using my webcam. I'm actually using my iPhone 16 Pro, and I'm using continuity via USB for that. But, and of course, this new ring light. So I'm cheating a little bit, but I have recorded podcasts without a ring light with this webcam on this laptop, and you're just having, portrait lighting on, which I have right now, and portrait blur, which I have right now, just makes it usable even in a dim hotel room like this. So I have to say, webcams are kind of still one of the things I wish I'd see improvements. But overall, I think the PC world right now is super fascinating. Ever since we've got Windows on ARM and Snapdragon X, and even it lit a fire under Intel. Like Lunar Lake is really solid, like battery life, performance. I'm really impressed, and that's the revolution we needed. Like I'm a huge laptop person. I love laptops, but I just felt like Intel was just not there especially after like the M1 and M2 and it took till last year. I think last year was really X Elite was really it.
It was, well, and I do feel like, AMD, I think, kind of started the competition, and then, Snapdragon came in and really pushed it even further, because it was, we'd gotten, I managed our, best laptops buying guide, and I kept having to update our kind of recommendations around battery life, because it was like, 3-4 years ago, we were saying, if it gets more than 8-9 hours of battery life, that's pretty solid.
And now you're laughing at that,
right? No, now it's really. 12 is now the point where I'm like, okay, that's not bad, but you can get 15 hours or more on a lot of things, and then obviously you've got like the MacBook Pro 16, where hit 21 hours plus in our testing, and so did a couple of Lenovo's with Snapdragon, also hit 20, like 2046 or something like that. So just you can have all day battery life really does mean all day in some of the laptops now, which is incredible. It's exciting time for laptops.
To give you a point of reference, I use my M2 Air on the flight to Germany to work on my Z Fold 7 review. It's a 10-hour flight, and I would say out of those 10 hours, I was on it for 7. Like super dim on the screen, like maybe two levels of dimness, like because it's dark in there, and I don't want to like blind everyone else. I was in business class, so it was a little more, protecting others from, because you're kind of cocooned. But just so two bars of brightness, Wi-Fi turned on, connected to my phone in hotspot mode, my phone itself connected on Wi-Fi to the plane. That's how I do it. If you have a Pixel or you have a Galaxy, not every Android phone supports this, but at least those two do. You can connect to the airplane Wi-Fi, turn on your hotspot, and then all your devices have Wi-Fi. And it's awesome because, your smartwatch is on, everything's working. If like me, you have multiple phones, they all work. You don't have to think about what phone am I using. And so in that configuration, I took off at 100 and I landed in Germany at 75% after 7 hours, because I was doing nothing. I was just literally typing in a Google Doc and looking up some reference materials on like maybe GSM Arena or whatever. And then, having a couple of PDFs open in preview for reference for like review guides or whatever. And Wi-Fi and and the brightness really helps. When you dim the brightness that much, your computer's doing nothing. And yeah, like this is typical. And this is a 3-year-old M2 Air now that I used almost as my main computer for half the time for the first 2 or 3 years I lived in Vancouver part-time, because when I didn't have the iMac yet. So like that battery, I don't think is, fresh. It's probably like at 85% of its life or something. So, I mean, once you reach that level, like I don't even need that much battery life. If I can do a 7 hours continuous work on a flight, it's like whatever. It's crazy.
The thing that has bothered me then with that is tablets. Tablets, we have not seen the same thing, and it has frustrated me to no end. Tablets are...
it's interesting, yeah.
Especially like Apple's. The iPads remain at roughly 10 hours, a little bit more. But like we've seen everything else go up, and that's kind of the one where we haven't seen that, because we've seen the same thing on phones in the last several years. The phone battery life is...
The mid-range phones, some of them, the mid-range phones I'm reviewing right now from Realme and stuff are like 7,000 milliamp hour batteries. We talked about last week, Honor announced an 8,300 milliamp hour silicon carbon mid-range phone with 8 millimeter thickness. Yeah. So that's where we're going. Like I have been saying this on the podcast multiple times now for the last month or so, that I think by 2028 we'll be at 10,000 milliamp hour on phones for the mid-range sold in India and in those markets where battery life is super critical because they don't always have access to power to recharge their phones, right? And of course, fast charging comes with it too, like 80 watt, 100 watt, 120 watt. But you're right. I think the reason we're not seeing that in tablets, Sean, is I think simply because Apple is the leader and they're driving the entire market. And they're perfectly happy with 10 hours, so nobody else is going to beat that. And I bet you the Android tablets, like I never really measured the battery life on my OnePlus Pad 3 that I reviewed recently, but I bet you it's better than an iPad.
It is. It was about, it beat the Air, the comparable Air by about 3.5, 4 hours in in the lab test that our team did. So
let's switch to some news items. We basically don't have a lot, so it's going to go real fast. That's kind of why I wanted to like chat with you about laptops. We got a little carried away, but I don't care. It's great. It's fun. And more importantly, do you want to talk about the fact that you are no longer at Laptop Magazine and people should give you a job?
Sure. Yeah. So Laptop sadly is no longer. They closed the brand on July 1st. So I'm no longer with Future. I'm looking for work, looking for freelance work as well. You can, find me on LinkedIn. You can find me as Riley Sean M most places. I'm that on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, most places.
Well, so hire Sean because Sean is awesome. And, it's not just laptops, it's phones, it's everything else. So yeah.
Yes, I was phones for 10 years before I did laptops. I did laptops sort of a little bit towards the end of my freelance stint. So I got a little bit into laptops, and then that's led to my job at Laptop Mag. It's been phones since the Droid, basically, was what I was living in. So so I have lots of years of certainly where I first met you at a Samsung event for phones at CES. So back when there were phones at CES.
Back when MWC, Samsung launched at MWC. In a way, I'm kind of glad they're doing separate events, because when you had to run the entire trade show and then Samsung would come and interrupt you with their massive thing, and it sucked the vacuum right out of like the entire event, right? Yeah. It was something. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Topics. We have a bunch of good stuff here. So Pixel 10 rumors or leaks. We have a bunch. The colors are out there. So I'll link to some GSM Arena stories here, because GSM Arena is kind of my go-to news aggregator for mobile stuff. And basically what it boils down to is we know the shapes and sizes and colors of all the models now. And what I like, I don't know if you've seen these colors, but I'm actually very excited about this kind of greenish color they have there.
Yeah, the jade. Yeah, I really like that one too.
Yeah. And then is that silver or is that a purplish silver? That's like, it says moonstone. So I guess it's kind of a gray.
Yeah, they refer to it as a slate, which I guess, so maybe there's I don't know. I'm not seeing the blue tint to it that I would normally associate with slate, but it does look just gray. I mean, it is incredibly interesting to not see a, black. I know they don't ever call it black or white, but, a black
the
or
white
white
is
option.
always porcelain and it's kind of off-white. And then the black they call like obsidian or something usually.
Yes, right. So it is a little bit surprising. I mean, it's always hard because, like, as reviewers, I think I always want I love the colors. I always think it photographs better, and I mean, I just like them. And if you're going to put a case over it, why does it matter what color it was originally anyway? But I like to go caseless when I can. So that's
that indigo color though. That's pretty. That blue. Yeah, I like that. That blue and that jade. That's what I'm in for. So there you go, folks. We've got all the colors there. If you scroll down in the article, actually, when you guys look at this, when you're listening to the podcast, you're looking at the bottom there's like literally 3 or 4 different articles of all the different colors for each different model of. So it's all leaked now, basically. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that is somewhat reminiscent of the same, Samsung's. Samsung's is a little bit darker, I think. The blue on the new Z Fold 7 and Flip 7.
Oh, yeah, good point. But I have it right here, in fact. So let's do a little. I know I've shown it before, but, it's so pretty. The Fold.
Oh, God, yeah.
There it is. Fold 7. Oh, look at that. That's a good color. Wow, this light's doing magic on this thing.
Yeah, it's nice.
Look at that. Look at that thing. It's so thin. It's so awesome. No, I really love it. I mean, it's still not as competitive as I like it to be compared to the Chinese. You can see the crease a little more today with this light, but it's actually really faint. You look at that, and then the USB port gives you a good point of reference there as to how thin. It's hard to see, but anyway. I've shown it again and again because I want you guys all to. You can't buy it yet, so you can live vicariously through me. For those of you on Patreon, thanks for supporting me. Speaking of Samsung, we have a bunch of rumors and leaks here. So this one's kind of a given. The Edge, I love the Edge. I think people. Like a lot of people got upset because the battery is only 3,900 milliamp hour and then there's no telephoto. Those are absolutely the 2 drawbacks. And I didn't give it more than 4 out of 5 because I felt like we know what the Chinese are doing right now with silicon carbon. It would have been the first and perfect opportunity for Samsung to go that route. And then the lack of telephoto is not that big of a deal breaker for me per se, but I really thought that with a 200 megapixel main sensor, we would get a 10x zoom that would be decent, and instead we got a 10x zoom that was usable, which is not. And frankly, I want to say, how I always go nuts about the sticker cams on phones, like basically a 2 megapixel camera that's just there to add a camera module and doesn't really do anything because it's crap. This phone has a sticker cam. That 3x 10 megapixel telephoto does not make any difference to this phone's zoom performance. It's identical to the Edge, meaning that 10x is usable but not decent enough. And I'm very upset about that. And again, same with the Edge, the 4,400 milliamp hour battery. When China has been giving us phones that are folding phones this thin since the V3 last summer, the Magic V3, but the cameras are significantly better and the battery is significantly more dense. And of course, faster charging on top of that. And, I know I'm sound like a broken record because I probably said that for the last 2 podcasts, but this thing is really great because we finally get a phone in the US that's that thin, that's supported, that's available through carriers, all that stuff. But so reading that the Edge next year is going to have a bigger battery, potentially silicon carbon, and with nothing about telephoto, but I'm hoping maybe a telephoto that's actually not a sticker cam. That's got me excited because I really like the form factor of the Edge. There is really something about holding a bar phone that's that thin and that light day to day because it really resets your expectations. And you pick up an Ultra again, you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? You know?
Well, yeah, you'd really hope if they are using it to replace, if it's essentially taking the Plus's place in the lineup, that would be the direction they go. That they give you a little bit more of that, the rest of the high end experience that you're kind of losing
Especially
out on.
at $1,099.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what vexes me about this telephoto, right? It's like if they had put a 50 megapixel or even like a 32 megapixel 5x telephoto in this fold phone, then there would have probably been some noticeable improvement. But at 3x 10 megapixel, and they're not even doing sensor fusion in the software to kind of take advantage of the fact that they have an extra lens. It seems like it's literally just a vestigial thing where because the previous Z Folds had a 3x telephoto, they couldn't remove it. It would have been bad optics. But in terms of actual end result performance, it's no better than the Edge with 2 cameras because that 200 megapixel sensor is amazing. Like the main sensor is really good, but it can't zoom really. And so like, it's kind of annoying because, like my Oppo Find N5, which is the same thickness as this and same size and has like a 50 megapixel 3x telephoto, like periscope. That thing zooms like at 30x with decent results. Like it's very annoying. So I want more from Samsung. More Samsung. You already gave us your all, but we want more. Yeah. So expect an S26 Edge with improvements next year. But trifold. So we're getting 3 trifold stories this week, which is cool because there's rumors or leaks on the Samsung one. Then there is rumors or leaks on the Huawei Mate XT2, which is their second generation of that trifold they made last year. And then we have this concept from Tecno, which that thing is hot. Have you seen that video? It's really cool. So I'm excited about all this because I'm a nerd. The chipset is leaked for the Galaxy Z Trifold, whatever it's going to be called. It's supposedly going to be called Z Trifold, which is really actually interesting. Not too bad. I don't mind it. Of course, it's an 8 Elite, right? I don't know if you know this, Sean, but this is actually interesting. You know how the Oppo Find N5 has that very rare, that seems to only exist on one phone, version of the 8 Elite that has 7 cores, CPU cores, instead of 8?
Mm-hmm.
They made, and so when it was announced, Qualcomm didn't talk much about it. Oppo didn't talk much about it, but they put it in that phone. And the idea was it's going to be a less performance, but it's not going to throttle as much because it's in a super thin phone. That was the idea. But then nobody else uses that chip. The Edge, uses an 8 Elite, throttles like crazy when you start doing stuff on it. The Z Fold 7, I just ran my benchmarks for hot hardware. Oh boy. It drops down to 44% of its performance after 20 minutes.
Wow.
Sustained workloads in 3D Mark. So why didn't Oppo just put the 8-core version and throttle the crap out of it? Because optics, right? Like now it's a lesser chip, so it looks less good on paper. It's like nothing Phone 3 with an 8S Gen 4, right? It's like, why didn't you just put an 8 Elite in there? And if you had to throttle it. Like that way you can say you have an 8 Elite, right? I don't know. It's weird. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't understand going with that either. But I love the trifold concept. I mean, it's interesting. It is one of those you worry about the same concerns that everyone had. You're gonna, sort of just start up the durability concerns anew. It feels like with all of the trifold designs. I know the Tecno specifically kind of goes for a different fold style than the others.
I think the Samsung's going to be like the Tecno from everything we hear. But Huawei, the Huawei is a little problematic because that you get that exposed edge all the time on one of the folds, right? Where the display is basically like ready to be destroyed by something anytime. So it's a ballsy thing to do.
Yeah, that seems terrifying. I don't think I could do that for a daily carry device.
But Huawei is persisting. Their trifold, the details are that we're going to get a new chipset, which is going to be one of their in-house chipsets, of course, Kirin 9020. And then some improvement in the camera. We don't know the details, but probably an upgrade on the telephoto. And honestly, they don't really need to do much more than that, because if you've ever seen that phone, I have. Michael Fisher had it for a while and I played with it. Oh my God. It's incredible. I mean, I know that it's folding the wrong way in a sense that it's like a danger zone. And I think Samsung's going to be, and Tecnos are going to be more reasonable. Tecnos is a concept, so who knows if they'll actually launch it or not. But if you watch the video of the Tecno being handled, it seems pretty solid. Like, it seems like it's just a Z Fold 7, but with 2 folds. And if that's what Samsung's making, personally, I don't care at this point if they just make a Z Fold 7 with an extra long display and an extra fold. Like, same specs. Even that crappy telephoto vestigial sticker cam 3x telephoto I can live with. Just give me a slightly bigger battery, obviously, because you have a third panel that you can put a third battery in, and sell it for $3,000. What? Let's go nuts! Like, come on! Like, where are you gonna end? Like, $2,000 already now. So I don't know.
Well, this is, I mean, we're sort of, touching back on what we were on earlier. We don't get a lot of crazy laptops anymore, and this is sort of that same concept. It's this miniature, almost it becomes the miniature laptop for you, basically. And it's just, well, that market doesn't exist for true laptops anymore. This is where that lives on. So I have to love it on that level.
Exactly, that's how I feel about it. But I think, considering we already have 7 years or 6 years of folding experience, and you can really see the results of that in those Chinese folding phones from last year, like the Magic V3, Magic V5, Oppo Find N5, and of course the Z Fold 7 now. Like, we've perfected this. So adding an extra fold, an extra hinge, I don't think is going to make it less reliable. Like, it's going to make it more expensive. I think we've solved this problem now, but do you want to pay $3,000 for a phone? That's basically what it's going to end up being, or $2,500 or $2,600, right? Like, it's ridiculous. So
no, that part is tough. And to be clear, I agree the durability problem. I just don't know that they're that out of the woods in terms of public perception on durability yet.
Definitely not. You're right.
Yeah,
definitely not.
But I completely agree. I haven't had any of the only fold I have had that has failed has been the battery swelling while it was in storage. So
really? Wow. Yeah, Samsung's pretty famous for spicy pillows. We talked about that with Chris Velasco last week. All right, moving on. OnePlus 15 is supposedly launching in China in October now. Of course, that doesn't make sense because the Snapdragon Summit is happening. I think late September, I believe it's public now. So that would mean that we're going to start seeing the first Snapdragon 8 Elite 2, whatever it's going to be called. At that point. Like last year, Realme had their flagship almost instantly afterwards. So did Asus with their ROG phone. So did Xiaomi with the Xiaomi, whatever it was, 15 series, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised if the OnePlus 15 is in the same boat. So let's see how it goes. I'm in. I'm for it. Well, of course, that means we're not going to get it till November or something, but we're going to get. It's crazy how it's shifting, and I think it's because of Chinese New Year. They want to sell, and for us, that means that very soon we're going to start seeing sales on these brand new flagships going to be coming out in October, November for the next few years because everything shifted, and we're going to see them at Black Friday. It's going to be crazy because usually we don't. The newest phone we get at Black Friday is the iPhone and the Pixel usually, and maybe the Z Folds and the Z Flips. Although now those have shifted to July, but for a while they were launching in September. But now we might actually get a OnePlus flagship, and not last year's, like this year's, for sale on Black Friday. So I'm happy with that. The OnePlus 13 was great fun. Really solid.
That was a fantastic phone. Back to battery life. That was incredible battery life.
I know. Speaking of battery life and OnePlus phones, they have a really cool charging cable out. It's that red cable, the white ends. It's USB-C on one end, USB-A, specifically for their fast charging bricks that have USB-A. And in the middle is a tiny little mini dock with the pogo pins for you to dock your OnePlus Watch 3, which is what I'm wearing right now, as you can see here. Oh, it's
nice.
That light is bright. There you go. Wait,
Yeah.
there we go. There. Nah, it was there for a second. I guess when I put my wrist back, it disappears. Yeah. Um, that watch is amazing. I love it. It's fantastic. And I almost want to ask the PR people to send me that cable just so that I can, for convenience, because having that extra puck in my bag all the time, now I can just have a charging cable that has the thing on it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really clever as opposed to one of the,
I know.
like I have one of those like trifold things that's for packing to charge everything, and that's fine. But yeah, this is just, very, very, very packable and clever. So all in
So,
favor.
just a PSA for those of you who are fully OnePlus, like have the Watch or the Watch 2 from last year and have a OnePlus 13 or even an older OnePlus like the 12, that cable will do this magic. How much do they want for this? Let's see.
$29.99 US.
$29.99. Yeah. Well, it's a little high to be honest, but whatever. I'd buy that. That'd be worth it. Their cables are very strong. Like they last. So it's not like the iPhone cables that like turn into that really weird goo after a while. Although now that they have the braided fabric cable, it's definitely gotten better. Then we have another OnePlus related news here, and that's the fact that Oppo has renewed their partnership with Hasselblad. There was some concern that wasn't going to happen, but it doesn't mean that OnePlus has renewed their partnership with Hasselblad. We've also heard rumors that OnePlus is not going to get Hasselblad branding on the 15. And that worries me because, although to be frank with you, the color signs on the non-Hasselblad Oppo and OnePlus and Realme phones, Realme don't have the Hasselblad, has been very similar and very, very good for years now. So it won't be a huge downgrade, but it's like things like, the X-Pan mode, like the ultra-wide black and white mode that mimics the Hasselblad cameras, and like things like the orange camera button, little things like that, user interface things. I hope OnePlus can renew their partnership too. If they don't, oh well. At least Oppo is still very strongly in my life. I have a lot of their phones and I enjoy using them. So I was a little relieved to read that. What is your thought on these partnerships in general and specifically that one?
Yeah, I think it absolutely has been a boon for them overall, because I think it did, carry them forward in terms of what they were doing with their photography and camera. And I do agree, as stupid as those little details are, like things like the shutter sound, it's just so satisfying it does make a difference.
I know, right?
So it is tough. Yeah, I'd be sad to see it go too, as much as, I think they've, I'm sure taken away what they can from the partnership, and probably, it's not that they wouldn't be producing great images still, but losing some of those little details. And then obviously, just for a lot of people, losing the branding itself is meaningful. So
for sure,
I'd be sorry to see it go.
Yep. Nothing CMF, their sub brand, has a new watch out, the Nothing Watch 3 Pro. And I have the old one, the Nothing Watch, I think 2 Pro. And this one's slightly bigger. So the screen went up from 1.32 inches to 1.43 inches. And essentially, it's the same kind of formula. It's a round watch with a nice display on it, OLED, and has a always-on display. And it's one of those, essentially what I call a fitness bands on steroids. It's like a smartwatch. It's essentially just a fitness band. So don't expect apps or anything. But the cool thing about these watches, and I have the old one and I have a bunch of other ones from Xiaomi and Huawei and stuff and Honor, is that they have great battery life. They do the basics really well. Like you get sleep tracking, you get all your workout tracking. It's all automatic. They have GPS. It says dual band, which is kind of amazing because it's at $100. And they look good, and they're and I mean, it's all you need, really. It's like, I just dig them. 2 weeks of battery life. Come on, turn on the always on display and maybe it goes down to 10. Oh my God, 10 days. Ooh, I just think it's great. And having used the previous CMF Watch 2 Pro for a bit, if you don't need Google Maps and an assistant and all this fancy stuff on your watch, you don't listen to music, streaming directly from the 4Gs to your watch with your earbuds without your phone when you're running, that kind of stuff. You can just live with just notifications and sleep and health tracking and stuff. Those things are great. So that sub brand from Nothing, CMF, is really doing some really great products at a good price that don't suck.
Yeah, just nice, clever design touches too. It's just not that's so often, that falls away. You'll get a decent product in terms of the overall features, but it's just sort of blah in terms of the design. And I think they still really are, doing things that make it stand out nicely, even though it's, these aren't.
Yeah.
But and yeah, I completely agree on the sort of fitness band on steroids is a like phenomenal category for a lot of people. And yeah, just the perfect description for them because it's not, I think that is the right, it's not exactly the same, but my wife went to a Garmin recently after having been an Apple Watch user for a long time. And loves having escaped the, battery life treadmill of having to charge every single day. So yeah, not having to sort of manage another phone basically is really nice with those devices.
I mean, honestly, I feel like the unsung heroes of the smartwatch world because people just like don't give them the respect they deserve. It's like a lot of people don't need more than that. It's like, and it's just because Apple created the Apple Watch, which is a phenomenal product in its own right. But because of that, it sets the standard that a watch should last 2 days at best on a charge and have all these apps that nobody ever uses. Nobody ever uses this stuff. People only do like maybe music streaming or Spotify on their watch if they have the 4G version. They definitely do notifications. They definitely do like, assistant. Yes, that I can see being a big miss. If you don't have an assistant, that would be sucky. But everything else, like 10-day battery life, like come on, that's the killer app, right?
The biggest one for my daughter who's 17, messaging, losing messaging, iMessage is
really?
her biggest issue with
they do that on their watch. We're too old for that, Sean. That's what.
Oh God, yeah, no, I only know this because of her. I don't, but it's she does lots of messaging on her watch. But she went to a Garmin because she's a big runner, and as much as she loves the messaging component, she's like, I can't use this for actual like activity tracking because the battery life just gets murdered if you do. It's already not great, and then you do a couple of GPS tracked runs and it's dead. Anyway, but that's my insight into the youth culture from my daughter. But
oh yeah. I'm way too old for this crap now. Last thing is satellite internet connectivity is now available through any T-Mobile plan or for any customer. Well, I mean, you need to have a relatively recent plan, but the point is it's been brought to everyone, which is nice. And as a T-Mobile customer, I'm very happy about that. And for those of you who are T-Mobile customers, I thought I'd give you a little public service announcement to let you know that you can now get T-Satellite is what they call it, service from T-Mobile anywhere on any modern plan. So what do you thought? Have you ever used it? I haven't actually used it. I have it on my phone, but I've never had a chance to use it yet.
No, I haven't checked to see. I got to check to see if my plan is supported because I haven't had a plan for that long. So
my plan is supported. My Pixel is supported. It's just a matter of like being out in the woods someday, far enough away from cell phone connectivity to try it out.
Yeah, I'm going to Colorado in like 2 weeks. So if I'm supported, I'll definitely have an opportunity to test it.
Yeah, call them up and see if your plan has it. And then all you need is in the US, obviously a Galaxy or a Pixel if you're on Android. And I think the iPhone maybe supports it as well, potentially. I would assume so. I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't checked.
I think the 15, maybe it's the 15 and 16 is where it starts. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Makes sense. I think for the Pixel, you have to have at least a Pixel 9.
Okay. Yeah, I
think it's Galaxy S24 and S25. Might could be, and then of course last year's folds and new folds, something like that. I think it required a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 or 8 Elite, I believe, and then it required a Tensor G4 or higher.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic that to have the support. We go to Montana a lot, and there's no connectivity lots of places there. So and even I live in Wisconsin, and even in there's large swaths of Wisconsin that don't really have connectivity either.
Well, you can test it better than me because I'm too urban. Too often.
Right. Yeah. I realize this is always the challenge with these things. It's like, I realize for, a large percentage, well, certainly a large percentage of the phone reviewing population, that this is completely, irrelevant feature to add. But yeah, there's I live in the middle of the country, and I drive through the sort of Great Plains, where there's definitely not exactly a bevy of cell towers. So
Yep.
yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, we should wrap up. Do you want to tell folks, I think you already mentioned it through the podcast, but remind everyone where they can find you on the internet in terms of social media and all your other stuff?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, all right. I'm Riley Sean M. It's on Threads, on TikTok, on X. I do use try to use Blue Sky. I really struggle with managing all social media, but yeah, that's me most places. And yeah, as Miriam kindly mentioned earlier, I'm also in search of a job, so I'm on LinkedIn more than I have been historically right now. So yeah, you need someone for laptops, phones, tablets, wearables. I've covered them all over the years.
Absolutely. And Sean is awesome. So you should definitely consider him. Another thing I want to point out is there's an incredibly cool archive of his writing at laptop still up. So go check it out. Like that article about MacBook Air versus MacBook Pro we talked, that kind of started our long thread about what history of laptops we owned is up there. And I will put a link in the show notes. So go read Sean's stuff so you have an idea. And then, hopefully you'll land a job soon. You know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character, drop the vowels. That's my handle on pretty much everywhere. I'm primarily on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky, but you'll find me on X as well, or Twitter, or whatever. I don't want to call it X. But I'm not on TikTok. That's kind of the only one. I'm also on Mastodon, but I don't really use it. So go find me. Go find Sean. Tell us your thoughts, your questions, whatever about the show. You'll see I'll post the show on the thing like I do every week on Sundays. And then, of course, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com or on all the major platforms. So if you're here for the first time, subscribe. If you're here for the third time and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe as well. Your app also might let you rate or review the show, so please consider doing that. And there is a youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. There's some videos there if you want to see some visual content. I've got videos on the Z Fold 7, Z Flip 7 from the Galaxy event in New York. That's my most recent hands-on video, so check that out. The channel is youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that stuff. And if you want to help me out, as I've mentioned a few times now, there is a Patreon, patreon.com/tankerl, like my handle, TNKGRL. There is a video version of this podcast. You get it a day in advance, usually like Saturdays sometime, and you get it for $5 a month. That's it. Every week you get a podcast. You get it in advance, $5 a month. Sometimes I leave extra content in there, bloopers. Like last week we had a blooper with Chris. It was a lot of fun. And, basically that's one way you can support me through Patreon. So consider that. And again, it's at patreon.com/TNKGRL. Finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Sean, thanks for being my guest yet again. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Miriam.
Absolutely. We'll have Sean again on the podcast at some point in the future, folks. And I have a show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.